So let me see if I can answer this question about storing and recalling stuff in the Iridium. I was used to the good old HX Stomp, which has HX Edit and all kinds of stuff, and you can go in and dig up exactly what's happening. But with the Iridium, simplicity is the word, and that can sometimes be a bit, I don't know, difficult. But keep things in perspective. 300 presets, I don't think anyone's ever going to use. Maybe 127, which would be what was on any channel. And there's different ways to set it up. What I do is manually, I use an MC6 and I set up a sort of a, what do you call it, like a menu structure with 6 channels each, 6 presets each, one for each of the amps, which can recall it. The other way I do is with OnSong, which the question was asked, and how does one go about doing that? Well, what happens is the Iridium stores all of the info for the position of the knobs internally. So when you send a PC11 to it, it maps those positions to the knob. Now, what I'm doing here is using this by USB, and I'm using another app, OnSong, and then Audio Bus, which shifts the channels to number 1. It's the USB only response to number 1. If you're using the jack, you can put it to 1, 2, 3, or whatever MIDI channel you want. But let me give you an example of how you can find the actual position of the knob. So that would be 11. Let's go for 13. And it should have changed. Go for 14, and you've seen the little light comes on. Now, if you switch the knobs around, you'll see it flick green for a second. That's where the setting is. So you can go through each one. Wait for it to flick green. There you go. Here it is. So there you go. That would be these settings for my number 14 over here if you wanted to note them. Now, way back when in the early days, Kip, my wingman for the club, he came up with a couple of diagrams. You'll see them already listed. This was like one of the OnSong things I did where I would just take a pen or a finger and scratch on there where things were. And the only reason I would say to do this necessarily is if that were to take a drink one day or blow up or explode or whatever, and you've spent a lot of time and you're using a whole bunch of presets, obviously you want some sort of old school book, record, anything, paper napkin. You need something to write this stuff down on and connect it. Me, for the most part, I haven't actually had to do that. I'm only using so many of these, way more than the 3 that you'd get with the external Iridium thing. So for me, either a manual controller with multiple pages that you can set, and I can do iterations of 6. Either 6 with 1 tap, another 6 with a double tap, another 6 with hold or something like that. Those behaviors will augment the amount. But where it really comes in handy for me is OnSong, because other than setting these manual ones, if I go to a song, say, these are all per guitar, so dialed into that particular guitar, these would be to automatically switch the cab IR. When you're using MIDI, you can go from, instead of 1 amp to 3, you can go any 1 amp to any of these 9. those are all the stock ones, yeah. So that's useful, but with that, you've got additional control. But if I go to something like an actual song, I can control, the HX stomp. You can control where this turns up, so I can get the MIDI controller to come to a preset that works for everything that I need to see. The plethora can be dialed into a particular board. So here, with this whole rig, what happens is you've got on screen by hand controls, by foot controls, and all three of these things are working in conjunction. So that may be handling left channel with any one of the three normal amps. And the stomp at this point can, go and get its freak on and bring up all kinds of crazy amps, or it can do drives, or it can do, whatever. Spread the DSP amongst the boxes and then let the toys do all the thinking for you is really the concept that I go with these. So using that thing, which is a Sim1 XT1 compressor, so any guitar goes in, and here you have a visual of the guitar that's coming out, the target guitar. So essentially, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items are one battery powered mini rig which does absolutely any sound anywhere visually represented, which I think works fairly well. I want to change stuff on the fly. I have these set up so I can go through and change the cabinet, boom, boom, boom. Can have this call up preset for it, and it just seems to work. I hope that's helpful. Pretty simple to set up, actually. There's nothing really complicated at all about this. So any questions, by all means, leave me some comments or give me a buzz in Messenger.